Hi, welcome to another Lawn Fawn video. I'm Kara and today we're making an ugly sweater advent calendar for a little magnetic deer. We're using the Ugly and Bright stamp set, Celebration Countdown, the Simple Stripes Landscape, and I'm using Sugarplum, Peacock, and Mermaid cardstock, a speech bubble from Say What Holiday Critters, and a speech bubble from Open Me. And the outside in stitched rectangles, the second largest one and the third largest one. All right, I'm going to start with a 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of mermaid cardstock for the base of my card. I'm using my Lawn Fawn bone folder. It gives a nice crease but doesn't leave any shiny streaks on there. And then I'm using some tape runner to put adhesive all along the front of that card base so I can put my stripes on there. I chose to use a color that was in my stripes for my card base so that when I line these up, you don't see any white lines behind it. Not that you always will, but sometimes I don't line things up exactly perfect. In this way, you wouldn't see anything behind it. All right, easy peasy, getting those stripes onto my card base. And now I have that all set and I can set that to the side and start on my ugly sweaters. So I have one ugly sweater and it's the plain one. And I'm using some clear ink to just stamp that, 25 or so times. I think I actually stamp it more than that, making sure that I have enough room in between so that I can cut them each out. And now I'm using Lawn Fawn's black embossing powder, and I'm pretty much going to shake that whole jar all over this page of ugly sweaters. Now this is Bristol smooth cardstock, and I'm using that because I'm going to do some sort of watercoloring, or just, you'll see, it's just smooshing type technique. But before I stamped those sweaters onto the paper, I did prep my paper with a anti-static tool so that this embossing powder wouldn't stick anywhere. Well, it stuck a little bit, and so I got that off with a small paintbrush, and now I am putting all of that back in the jar because I'm notorious for blowing on my paper or blowing this heat tool somewhere near that embossing powder, and I don't need that going everywhere. So easier just to stick it in the jar before I start that. Right, now that that's melted and all of the sweaters are embossed, I'm going to start with the numbers. I prepped my paper again with that anti-static pad so that I don't have any, I guess oils from your fingers or things like that that would have that embossing powder stick where you don't want it. But just taking each of the numbers and setting it onto the sweater. The great thing about the Celebration Countdown stamp set is that they have all the numbers, so I don't have to place two together. For like example, if I was going to put 21, they have 21. I don't have to put the 2 and the 1 together. Not that that's a big deal, I know, but it was kind of nice just being able to go from one number to the other all the way down to 25. Now I'm just doing a few at a time. So I'm adding my embossing powder to that first row, and I'm going to melt that. Again, I'm going to put my powder away and take a small paintbrush to get any of the little specks of black off where I don't want them. And I'll do this for all 25 shirts. What I think is great about this ugly sweater stamp set, the Ugly and Bright, is this little plain shirt. I mean, you could use this for a sports thing too. So if you have a kid who is number 5 on the team, you can certainly just put number 5 on a sweater. It could be a shirt, sport shirt, and there you go. You've got a tailor-made birthday card or encouragement card for your little one. All right, so I am clipping off the top row so that when I put on my embossing powder, I don't have to worry about it getting on those other ones that are already done. And here they are all complete. And I'm using my glass mat now, and I'm pressing down Lawn Fawn's Rainforest and Kiddie Pool and Sugarplum ink colors. And these are the 1-inch ink pads, and then spraying those. And now I'm just going to drag my different sweaters into the ink. And then they'll all be a little different, but all similar enough to look right on the front of my card. Now, you could do this in so many different ways. You could color each one of these sweaters. You could color them all different colors. You could just use cardstocks of different colors as the sweater. So a lot of different ways to do this. Mine are going to be kind of like a tie-dye look. So they'll all be a little different, but very similar. I'm just selectively dipping and dragging them along in the ink, being kind of, I don't know, kind of careful to make sure I've got a good representation of all the different colors. I clipped some apart that I liked as so that they wouldn't get more ink on them, and some of them I just kept them all together. I actually like the ones that have a little white in them, and I only have 2 of those that kept some white, which is number 2 and number 6 of the sweaters. I stopped from time to time to add a little more ink and spray it with water so that I had enough of the different colors that I wanted. Then came the hardest part, waiting for them to dry, which is, I don't know why that's so hard for me. I can't just go do something else. So here I have the shirt or the sweater die cut, and I cut them all out once they were dry. And here they are lined up and sitting on the card, waiting to be placed on there. But first, I wanted to give them something that would be cohesive within all of the sweaters. And so I am using my white gel pen to give them all a white neckline. And here are all the little magnets cut out. You can see how thin they are. Now that is a 30 mil size magnet. It's thick enough to hold one magnet to another through a piece of paper, but it's not too thick that it adds too much weight to my card. I have a deer from the Ugly and Bright stamp set already cut out and colored, and the paper sticks easily to the magnet just with a little tape adhesive. So I'm going to make sure that he's all lined up on the coordinating magnet for him. And you can see my little medal there. That's my that is my representation of the refrigerator. So there he is over on the refrigerator, and I'm just adding each of these sweaters now to their coordinating magnet, and they'll be all set to put on the little deer, just like that. So I think this is a fun little way to give somebody an advent calendar without having to add all the calories that, that go into the chocolate ones. No, no, no. I'm just kidding. Give the chocolate advent calendar too. It's okay. They can have two, right? Two ways of showing the way the days are moving along the countdown to Christmas. All right, well, now we need a way of keeping all these shirts onto the card, and I am using mini glue dots to do that. And I'm taking just a row off so I can look at the row beneath it to kind of line up where I want those mini dots to go. Just take them off and put them each on there. Now those will easily come off the back of the magnet, so it's just a way to stick them on there until they use that sweater. And these sweaters can be used year after year. There's no limitation to those because they don't get ruined at all as they get put onto the deer. They're just magnetic. So someone can keep them, and actually that little tin that I have that the deer is on would be a nice way of giving that to somebody. Or I know that Lawn Fawn has some great little boxes. You could put all these little sweaters in there and keep them to the next year. So you can give this card along with the little treat box. It has a treat in it, and then they can put those sweaters into the box once they're done. All right, the sweaters are all on the front, and now we need to work on the inside of the card. So the deer is going to sit inside, and I have a outside in-stitch rectangle in peacock and in sugarplum, and I put them together because I want to line up where I want this sentiment from ugly and bright. And then I'm also going to stamp out one more sweater for the deer so he has this all occasion sweater when he's done with the numbers so he can wear it any time of year, and some speech bubbles as well so that he can say Merry Christmas in one, and also I can explain what to do with this deer in the other speech bubble. I'm prepping my paper once again with that anti-static pad and then using some clear ink to ink up those stamps and stamp that down. I'm using my Misty for this because I'm also going to add a Merry Christmas inside the one speech bubble. So I thought it'd be easy just to keep it right where it was and add that in there. You could do it with a stamp block as well. But now that I have those stamped out, I'm going to add my black embossing powder and heat that up just like I did with the other sweaters. It was fun to use this black embossing powder because it gives a real nice dark lettering and also a great shine. And it was a nice way to use that watercoloring technique, that smushing technique on those sweaters. It's a bit raised, and so it gave it kind of a well for that watercolor to sit inside. Well, I was going to cut them out first with the coordinating dies, but I decided to keep them all on the paper so that it was easier to drag through that ink instead. And so kind of gives me a little bit more control over where I want to put the ink. I'd like to have a little more white space in the speech bubbles so that you can read what it says. I think you could either way, but this way I felt like it was giving that the look that I was going for. Now I just have to wait for this to dry and then I can cut them out. So while I'm waiting, I'm going to adhere my rectangles to the inside of the card, and this will give me a focal point inside to put the deer and all the little accessories around him. It's funny, when I was photographing this card, I realized that the inside could actually be the front of the card, and the front of the card could be on the inside. So it could go either way, whichever looks better to you or whichever way you want to do it. I'm adding some white gel pen details to this sweater that's going to be on the inside of the card. And now with that speech bubble, I don't know if it's an epiphany or what it is, but we don't always have to go with the sentiments we have. We can write inside these speech bubbles. And so since this card is a little bit different in what the person should do with it, I wanted to write how to use it. So it says, I'm magnetic. Put me on the fridge and change my shirt each day. Or it should say, change my sweater each day. But I think I'm going to use that a lot from now on, just putting a critter inside the card and adding a speech bubble with a message that is specific to the person I'm sending it to. All right, just adding some adhesive onto that sweater and putting it on the magnet. It's time to put my pieces on the inside. I'm adhering down the speech bubbles with some tape runner adhesive, but I'm going to put glue dots on the back of the deer and the sweater so that they can come off. And I decided it was easier to put those mini glue dots onto the deer itself and add it to the card so that the glue dots are exactly where I want them placed. And I did the same thing with the sweater. So now that he has his little sweater on the inside and his 25 sweaters on the outside, this card is all done. So here it is. There's the front and there's the inside. It says, Merry Christmas and may your sweaters be ugly and bright, and also has instructions on what to do with this little guy. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video today and it inspired you to maybe make an advent calendar out of your cute critters with lawn fawn. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.